part of the historic district, part of the National Regional District. So it's considered a historic building, which is important because Marco's going to talk about the tax credits, which are part of this project. So if it wasn't part of that, this project probably wouldn't have happened. Architecturally, you know, it's a nice classical revival building. It's pretty simple, nothing just, you know, highly ornate, but it really kind of says something about this corner. But when Greg takes you around the building, I just really want you to take a look at what's going on back to the northwest of this building. There's lots of overhead choirs, there's empty ground, there's some garages. And if this building wasn't here, this would be nice. Well, that's the third time he's been by. I think he's like trying to harass us or something. So if you take this building out, and you come down West Washington, what you would see is what you see back to that northwest corner. And it really was, that was a challenge, I think, for me, from a preservation standpoint, the entrance to this district, it just wasn't what we wanted to see. And so what had happened was the property owner of record had left town, literally and figuratively. We knew who it was, we thought, but it was kind of, you know, it was all this murky stuff. Well, that's all fine, that happens. The problem was he had let a contract go for a new roof. About the time that he skipped town, the roof was about half off this building. And so it just started raining inside. It was really sad. And by about 2003, the city was pretty much fed up. It was an unsafe building. There was nobody around to do anything with it. Code enforcement got involved. They just didn't know. It was, you know, they had to do something. So demolition was the path that was being pursued. Instead of demolition, landmarks, we approached the city, well, how about receivership? And receivership is just a court action you can do through the unsafe building law that allows the court to say, okay, receiver, you can make those changes to make this building safe. You go in, you make those improvements to make the building safe. And so Landmarks was named receiver of the property in partnership with the Code Enforcement Office and the Mayor's Office. Very much of a partnership to make that happen. We were named receiver about 2005. We put about $100,000 into this property, put a new roof on it, replaced about 30% of the structure of the roof, cleaned out 14 40-yard dumpsters worth of personal artifacts, debris, and whatnot. Yes, couches and dressers and TVs and clothes and shoes and just stuff. Every time we do a building, we had to start by cleaning out the stuff. We did all that work, and we kind of mothballed the building by about 2006. Well, it's 2013. It took another 7 years to get through the legal challenge of the title. It was just a mess of back property taxes, people that thought they owned it, people that wished they owned it, mortgages, property taxes. It was just a nightmare. So people drove by this property. We get a phone call, why aren't you doing anything about the Rushton? What's going on with the Rushton? You should improve the Rushton. I'm like, you know, that's where I hang out every day. We agree. And so it took about 7 years to get that cleaned up. Finally, last summer, the county was able to work with us on forgiving the back property taxes, which accrued to about $150,000. And that cleared the final piece of the title, and that allowed us to turn it over then and sell it to the next owner. And that's what Landmarks does a lot. We kind of do the hard work. If it was easy, somebody else would have done it. We kind of cleared the way for that redevelopment to happen. And we just appreciate the city working with us over those years and being patient, because they didn't have to. It could have come down, and we wouldn't have this here, and nothing would have gotten built here for a long time. So we're pleased to be able to now take the next step, turn it over to South Bend Heritage Foundation, and that's what Marco's going to talk about as the next piece of the life of this building.
Thanks, Todd. You know, and really kudos to Historic Landmarks Foundation, Todd, and the city. They deserve a round of applause for saving the building. We wouldn't have the opportunity we have today to be standing here and talking about this great project. So, what do you do with this building? This architect has taken a lot of trips through this building, really reconfiguring how could it be reworked, what kind of units could be created to get the project to cash flow. So we began taking a real deep dive into that last year. And after a lot of conversation, we really said, you know, this building, it's a tight site, there's no parking, but it's close to downtown, it's close to medical facilities. You really could only do some smaller units. These aren't big units. It really sets up for seniors, 55 years and over. So we started looking at some reconfiguration of the units in the building. This idea of having seniors in this neighborhood really started to make sense. So we did some number crunching, and we came to the conclusion that we really think we can make this project work from a cash flow standpoint with 23 units of senior housing, a mix of studios, 1 bedrooms, and 2 bedrooms. We started looking at Greg did some new numbers, and we really felt we should submit an application for tax credits downstate that we felt could be a competitive application. So we did all of that due diligence, and we submitted an application to ICTA, the Indiana Housing and Community Development Authority, and lo and behold, out of 70 applications that were submitted downstate last year, and only 14 that were awarded out of those 70s, we were one of the 14 that were awarded. So that's a huge deal for us, very competitive application. So what we received they're called low-income housing tax credits, and we also received historic tax credits. What that means is there's a third party, what's called a syndicator. They go out and find investors who buy the tax credits for, say, 90 cents on the dollar. They buy those credits because it lowers their tax liability for their businesses. Warren Buffett, Berkshire Hathaway, those kind of folks buy the tax credits. And they'll spend 90, 92 cents on the dollar to buy those credits to write down their tax liability. So I like to think of it as the government isn't increasing taxes, where they're at least not spending more money. It's kind of a win-win-win. The investor's able to lower his taxes, tax credits come in to allow us to do projects that are really difficult. So we received that award. The construction here sort of sticks and bricks, as I'm calling it, about $1.8, $1.9 million. So 23 units, you could say that's pretty expensive per unit. But I think these guys would both attest that if you were to try to build a building like this today, you couldn't do it for those kinds of dollars.